Thanks for joining. Today we're at the Point Grey Battery. This is an artillery fort that was used to sturdy up the defenses along the Georges Strait in preparation for World War II. Let's go and explore. The Point Grey Battery is part of a harbour defence system built to defend the port of Vancouver during World War II. In 1938, at the outbreak of World War II, construction began at Point Grey to help secure the Strait of Georgia. Point Grey Battery was the most heavily armed of 5 coastal artillery forts. While the battery was under construction, 2 6-inch guns were mounted on temporary mounts. The permanent emplacements were completed in September 1940, and the 2 available Mk7 guns were mounted on Mk2 shielded mounts. A third 6-inch gun was mounted in April 1941, but was ordered not to be fired except in action because it was suspected of being faulty. The gun was successfully proof-fired but remained suspect and was unmanned at the end of 1943. Each of the gun emplacements was a separate entity, but was connected to the other emplacements by underground tunnels. The emplacements were 2 stories high, with the gun located on the upper level and the magazine located below. Shells were moved between levels by an electric hoist and then loaded into the gun by hand. Each magazine also had a separate emergency exit in case of attack. The battery also had a 6-pounder Hotchkiss gun, which was used as a not-so-friendly reminder to any shipmasters who didn't properly identify themselves when entering the harbor. Behind the building was an assortment of support buildings, including mess and recreation facilities, for the 250 officers and men that manned the station. By 1944, the threat of enemy attack was greatly reduced, and the battery was placed in caretaker status. And once the war ended, local regiments continued to train on the battery up until 1948, when the guns were removed. When the fort was officially vacated in 1948, it had never fired a shot, other than a few warning shots for ships entering the inlet. By 1950, the structures were turned over to the University of British Columbia to use as student housing. The battery buildings themselves were designated as a site for the construction of the UBC Museum of Anthropology. When the museum was built, elements of gun emplacement number 2 were incorporated into the museum's interior and structure. In fact, the former gun pit is now being used as the centerpiece for display of Bill Reed's Raven and the First Men. Sitting on the base of a former gun turret, the light streaming in from an overhead skylight provides a spectacular setting for this piece. Today, the remains of the other 2 gun emplacements can be seen outside of the museum at either end of the building. The emplacements are sealed and in good shape, but the guns and mounts have long since been removed. And a little further along, you can still see the underground entrance to one of the magazines. None of these structures have public access, but there is some interpretive signage provided. Just a couple minutes walk away is a trail which contains 480 steps down to access the Tower Beach below. Now we're just a few minutes walk away at Tower Beach. Why is it called Tower Beach? Take a look. Down here you can see the remains of 2 concrete towers which were part of the Point Grey Battery and give the beach its name. Although these look like bunkers or gun turrets, they actually held 60-inch searchlights which projected into the Burrard Inlet and helped spotters identify incoming German or Japanese attackers. These towers were unmanned and the searchlights were remote controlled from an above observation post. With a brightness of 80 million candle power, these searchlights could illuminate targets at up to 2 miles away. Unfortunately, the towers have become a popular canvas for graffiti artists, and some of the artwork you see here dates back as far as the 1970s. Thanks everyone for coming along to explore the remains and the history of the Point Grey Barracks. There were some plans made at one point to cover up one of the gun emplacements and disguise it as an Oriental garden, but thankfully that hasn't happened, and these remains continue to provide an interesting glimpse into Vancouver's wartime heritage. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned because we've got another adventure coming. Until next time, it's time to exit through the gift shop.